gold dinar would have had serious consequences for the world financial system, but may also have empowered the people of Africa, something black activists say the US wants to avoid at all costs.
We're slicing cake. We're slicing cake. We're slicing cake.
Say the US wants to avoid at all costs.
We're slicing cake.
Say the US wants to avoid at all costs. Gaddafi didn't give up. In the months leading up to the military intervention, he called on African and Muslim nations to join together to create this new currency that would rival the dollar and euro. They would sell oil and other resources around the world only for gold dinars. It's an idea that would shift the economic balance of the world. Countries' wealth would depend on how much gold they have, not how many dollars they trade. And Libya has 144 tons of gold.
Welcome everyone to Thando Radio Show, brought to you by Black Talk Radio Network. I'm your host, Dave from LA, and today is Friday, December the 16th, 2016. We have a live show for you today, and just want to thank you all for listening today. And so before we get going, let's get into some of the very important, first and foremost, let's talk about how you can support Black Talk Radio Network before we go any further to make sure that this network is here and going to continue to be here for the future. You can do that by going to blacktalkradionetwork.com, www.blacktalkradionetwork.com. Once you go there, you'll see on the far right-hand margin, you'll see the icon, the donation icon. Click that there, and that will lead you to how you can donate right there to ensure that this network will continue to be here, and the programming that you have benefited from will continue to be here for you and for those that we have yet not named in the future, because it's very, very important that we have this network and continue to do what we've been doing, and so that others can join in as well and to be actually benefit from it all. So this is where this institution has to continue to grow, and one of the ways that you can ensure that it grows is by giving some of your overall financial energy to ensure that that happens. So you can do that by going to the website there and hit the donation prompt that's there, as well as there is a crowdfunding campaign, crowdfunding Black media. You can do that there as well. What happened to my, oh boy. Okay, no, nothing. Okay, so you can do that as well. Now, also, Black Talk Radio Network has established a social media outlet known as BTR Community. And that is, you can find that also on the website in the far right-hand margin. You can see a B, and that's the white B that's there on the far right-hand margin. And what you can do there is that the Black Talk Radio Network has established a social media outlet for you to engage in social media activities without having to worry about someone actually selling your identity for their overall good. And it's something that I think is very, very important. This is, as you're starting to see that there is going to be a run on the freedom of speech, and they are going to start to move, and what they're really basically doing is starting to really push an agenda of they're going to be suppressing the overall general population so that information will not be given to you all. So that is a very, very important and critical thing that we must be able to have our own outlet of information, because what you know will be very, very important, and you want to know as much of the truth as you possibly can. So definitely you can go to BTR Community. It's only $24 a year, and you can sign up right there, and it's very, very important. So definitely you want to engage in that. So also, if you're interested in acquiring precious metals, by transferring some of your cash into real money, you can do that by going to Prosperity Mint. That's PROSPERITYMINT.com, and acquire some real money. And you can exchange your coupons for real money and very, very important as we start to look at what's going on in the world. You can see why that's so important. So definitely you can go to Prosperity Mint. Now, once you go there, check out what they have in inventory. Then email wolf6pack1@gmail, and the numbers are numerical, wolf6pack1@gmail.com. And then someone will get with you to ensure that you understand the overall acquiring of the precious metals process and make sure that you're buying correctly, okay? So then make sure you know exactly what you're getting. So make sure that you email before you do that, all right? So now, before we get into what's in the news, let me pull up. There's an article that I need to repost here that's very, very important. It talked about the U.S. dollar treasuries being actually, and this one came from the U.S. Treasury. Let me see if it's still there. I know I'm going to have to redo it. Okay. Very, very important article that was the U.S. Treasury was the selling of basically 38.4, I believe I'm going by memory, $38.4 billion in U.S. Treasuries was sold in October. The report came out from the Secretary of the Treasury, from the Treasury Department, and that actually shows in the past 3 years that over 400 billion U.S. Treasuries were sold. They are dropping the U.S. dollar, dropping it like it's hot. And there's a reason for that, because the governments around the world know where things are going because they are part of it all. And this is why they're going to continue to drop the U.S. dollar. And believe me, you don't want to be the buyer of last resort and to be holding that once it completely loses its purchasing power, or its purchasing power will be diminished. You'll always have you'll have a U.S. dollar for a while, but what difference does it make if it doesn't have any purchasing power? That's very, very important. So that article, I'm going to have to find it and repost it inside of BTR. Okay? So we'll definitely do that. So let's get into what's in the news. And first article came from Bloomberg.com. China's finance minister falls short of targets at bill auction. So they weren't able to sell as much of the debt that they wanted to as well. And I said, and my commentary to that was going to turn into a fight, a very big distracting fight, and the people will lose as usual. And because that's what this is all a part of the game that's going on. And so China's missed their mark on selling their treasuries, their bonds, and that has a very significant as the number one economy in the world. And believe me, that is going to be used to be played into motion to where they're going to be attacking you and every person on this planet that is not a part of this fraternal order known as governments. And we're definitely going to take a look at that today in our show today, the part 2 of Pull It. Very, very important. I just want to say I caught some of Scotty's show. Man, great show, Scotty. Well done, my brother. Well done. And this is why we're here, because we have to talk about and to give and to expose some of these things so that you, the everyday person, and us, the everyday people, will decide our overall self-direction and have self-determination and sovereignty based off of what's important to us instead of following others by the leash or by the lead that has always moved us into a position of disadvantage and to subjugation and enslavement. And that can only be broken by us. Very important that we do that. So, great show, Scotty. Next article this one comes from Veterans Today. Aleppo, a mirror of the future world. And talking about in Syria, the overall destabilization that Syria is in is going to be the future of a mirror of the future world. And I would say, put it this way, a mirror of the future world and what has been known and has been designated by the controlling governments as the United States. That is going to be here without a doubt soon enough. Okay, so next one that's posted is today's show. It's going to be part 2 of Pull It, and part 2 is Pull It. And I said the little slogan for this one, the key to magic is to make you believe, and that's what this is all about. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Next article comes from NPR.org. Obama, Russian hacking needs to take action, and we will. We need to take action, and we will. This is what yesterday the celebrity figurehead Obama gave an interview to NPR, and it also had a press the last press conference of the year, or maybe one of the last ones of his celebrity administration. And he lightly touched on that today from what I heard. I wasn't really, just heard some things and went on, but I thought it was kind of funny with some of the stuff that I heard. But check out that article for that. This is all part of the destabilization process that's going on. Next one article comes from Daily Caller News Foundation. FBI New York field officers told to continue the Clinton Foundation probe. So, as I said, when when all this stuff, the email came out, I said, watch, it's going to resurface and resurface until they get what they want, because this is a part of the purge that is going on. And my man Scott said, if anyone is deserving to be purged, it is the Clinton criminal family, without a doubt. Without a doubt. And these are some of the pawns and the minions that actually serve the overall agenda, but they're going to use this to facilitate the objective that the system wants to maintain. But there is no guarantee that their mission will be accomplished or their objectives will be met by the methods of their tactics. If the people of this world start to realize their power and the importance of them being self-determining and sovereign, then their overall agenda will never be approached. And believe me, if we continue to follow and to play by their rules will continue to govern us all. And this is where their objectives where their mission is always accomplished, because we as the people of the world don't really invoke our free will and to establish what's in the best interest of us collectively, community-wise, family-wise, and individually. We allow that, and we give that authority blindly over to people who mean us no good. And this is why I always say the first step to blind authority is the first step to genocide. And that's what's going on here with this and other things, that they're going to actually start to sacrifice their own because of the rituals that they follow of death, destruction, and subjugation and enslavement. So check out that article. Next one, posted from Sputnik News. It said, make it snappy. U.S. rushes to transfer 4,000 troops to the Baltic, Poland, and Romania. Military intelligence gets short. Polish defense minister made an announcement on December the 14th in Poland, in a town in Poland, where he met with Lieutenant General Ben Hodges, commander of the U.S. land forces in Europe, according to the Associated Press. This is going to be a part of the objective to continue the overall global war paradigm that's going to move into World War III and then lead into global nuclear war I. And they lied to everyone about the overall use of nuclear weapons. The use of nuclear weapons do not have to destroy the planet. In the way and fashion, what they told you, that was all a lie. It's a part of the tactical it's a part of the manipulation and the disinformation that they wave upon you. There's actually been radioactive isotopes that have been destroying people's bodies since 2011 with Fukushima, that gives off far more radiation than what was given off in a nuclear blast. And remember, they have been dropping nukes all over this planet for many years, even from the test phasing and everything else. And then in Japan, when they bombed the two cities, that was an explosion, but it didn't totally annihilate. But see, that's what the impression that they want to give you, because by giving you that propaganda, they're able to lead you in a direction because you're following. Now, are there weapons capable of destroying humanity? Sure, definitely are. But also with nuclear technology, there's ways to mitigate the radioactive isotopes that actually cause your body to be ill. But they don't tell you that because that's not in the agenda. What's in the agenda is to have World War IIIs and massive wars that depopulate the planet so that it's easy to control people. So that's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it because of what we've been doing in researching and looking at this overall system. It is full of lies. It's a fraternity of governments against the people of the world. And by controlling that, this is how they're able to maintain people from ever becoming self-determining and sovereign. So check out that article from Sputnik. Next article. Posted this one. Next article comes from Reuters. And my man Scotty had talked about this, caught him, and I loved it, what he was saying. This one comes from Reuters. Philippines Duarte tells the U.S. to prepare to leave the country. The Philippines president told the U.S. that they're going to no longer uphold the military occupation or the military lease that the U.S. has with them. They're going to be kicking them out of the United States. Now, let me just say this about what's going on there. See, they give us these characters because these characters play right into the agenda to deceive us all. You got a character there, you got a character here, you got characters all over the planet that are so-called the heads of states. And they're doing this for a reason, because they're going to make a buffoonery of everything so that they can bring in their deceptive tactics of depopulation to control people. So this is going to enhance the overall conflict with China, because one of the things that was said was that the Philippine president said that they don't need the U.S. money anymore. We don't need you. It's time for you to go because we don't need your money. We're going to get it from China. So that destabilizes the South Sea of China area. Now the Scarborough Shoals Island, China is going to be able to weaponize that, and that is going to lead to a military confrontation with the U.S. And the only thing that the U.S. will probably maintain there would be would be Japan, but China will control the South Sea of China by the strategical en-routes into that area, which is going to be very important. We're going to talk about that. So, but check out that article. Next article comes from Bloomberg. Venezuelan odyssey of spending cash endures with new bills late. The largest denomination of Venezuelan currency was pulled from circulation before the new large denomination bills were able to enter it. ATMs and wallets are empty. So as Christmas is just a little more than a week away, man, it's not even about Christmas. It's about just overall being able to survive in Venezuela. And we're definitely going to take a look at that. And this is really, really because this is the precedent that's being set, because this is what is going to be used throughout the world. Australia is going to be using it. We'll talk about that next week as well and put this all together. But this is critical. Next article. Also, my man, who was it? It was Tim Seymour had posted. I saw a post that Tim Seymour did in BTR about a drone that was seized by China from the U.S. And that was a really, really good article, great one. And then I was just doing something. I said, oh, man, I got to go find this. And then I found it. And then did some more research on it. And then there's another article that we posted here inside of Thando for BTR. Is from the Daily Mail. China's Navy seizes U.S. underwater drone in the South Sea of China. Now, this is, and why this is so important is because one of the reasons why, and they said that they were there on, peaceful oceanic research and everything else with this drone. And so they snatched up this drone. But what was happening was that in the South Sea of China, and we posted this article from NBC News, which is another, just like Cerebrally Naive Network is a mainstream media lying outlet. China holds the first live fire drills involving its aircraft. carrier. China's military has carried out its first live fire drills using an aircraft carrier. State media said dozens of ships and aircraft took part in the exercise a few days ago to test the weapon system's performance and training levels, according to a statement posted Thursday on the Defense Ministry's website. And that was what in my opinion, what the Navy was doing there and what they were spying on. Because one of the things that it's a very, unpublished but well-known fact in the military realm is that China has a very large underwater submarine base in the South Sea of China that will pose great threat to the U.S. Navy. This is all a part of the game, everyone. So check out that article. Very, very good one. Next article from Denver.cbslocal.com. Police respond after taking blankets from homeless. The Denver Police Department is defending officers who were caught on videotape taking blankets and tents from homeless people when temperatures drop below freezing overnight. And this is crazy, but this is what we get when we allow the governments to rule. And so check out this posting that's there as well. Next article, this one comes from otherwords.org. Foreign meddling in our vote. Remember how this feels. And this was basically talking about during the Cold War, the CIA did everything it's accusing Russia of doing today and more, even in its elections years after shots through with conspiracy theories as this one. It would have been hard to imagine a bigger bombshell than Russia intervening to help Donald Trump to win. So this is a part of, there is a facade of you being an American and someone else being a Russian and someone else being this and someone being that. Because those are nationalistic ties that actually divide everyone on this planet. Why? Because it's much easier to control people when you divide them and break them up, and you give a few people control over many, and to establish a facade of a culture based in fads, and then you're able to control their overall energy because they surrender to it. This is why they come up with the idol worships of objects. Objects that have persons right. But that's the letter of the law. But the spirit of the law, nothing inanimate has any form of energy other than what those that have a life form use it for. So it is not a living entity. So, and we've really broken ourselves from this, and this is one of the controlling factors that really put us as a collective whole in a position of disadvantage. And this has to be broken, and it has to be broken by you first individually, and then from you resonating from your sovereignty and your freedom and your self-determination, that then you can start to resonate with a high frequency, or if you choose to resonate in a low frequency, is up to you. But however you choose to resonate, but your overall resonance of your energy should not impede on anyone else's. And once you do that, there, in my opinion, that is where there is a violation of the spiritual correctness of being able to be sustainable. And so this is nothing more than the same tactics being used all over again, but is the same tactics being used all over again to fool the different people. So check out that article while you're there. And let me see, because I think there was a couple of things that were dropped. Let me check real quick and make sure before we go into but yeah, we're getting ready to go into a commercial break, everyone. If you'd like to get in on today's conversation, once we open up the phone lines, don't hesitate. Give us a call, 866-510-9025, 866-510-9025. Then what you would do is hit **. That will and then we will see that you're in queue, and we will definitely bring you up. We'd love to hear what you have to say. You're listening to Thando Radio Show, brought to you by Black Talk Radio Network. We'll be right back after these quick commercial breaks.
The Black Talk Media Project funds the use of new media technology in efforts to restore independent Black voices to the myriad of issues affecting Afro-descendant people all over the planet. If media can control the minds of the masses, as Malcolm X once said, then you must ask yourself, who is in control of the media targeting the masses of Black people today? Help bring back independence, self-determination, and respect for Black culture in the production of global media by joining the effort to crowdfund new Black media for the new millennium. Visit blacktalkmediaproject.org for more information on how you can invest in public Black radio for the masses.
Okay, welcome back, everyone, to Thando Radio Show, brought to you by Black Talk Radio Network. I'm your host, Dave from L.A., and it's a Friday, December the 16th, 2016, and definitely, if you'd like to get in on the conversation, without a doubt, definitely give us a call. So we're going to jump into today's show. Oh, the number to give us a call, 866-510-9025, 866-510-9025. So let me see, Scotty sent me. Okay, got you, Scotty. Okay, so, so listen, just Scotty sent me a message. Hey, if you, for the social media outlet that was established by Black Talk Radio Network, just go to www.btrcommunity.com, www.btrcommunity.com. Okay, so let's jump into today's show. If you weren't able to get in on yesterday and call in, definitely do that today. We'd love to hear from you. So let's jump into today's show now. Today's show is Pull It. Now, before we get back into it, I want to lay out some things. But first, before we do that, and I'm going to show you where I got Pull It from. It had everything to do with 9/11. But I think it's very, very important that I lay the foundation of what my opinion of is what's going on in this moment in eternity, in the past, and then some of the things that are going to be challenging in the future. It's very important that we understand and take back our own individual, unique existence from what was given to us as a true gift of life, eternal life from the great creator, and that is our free will. Whoever surrenders their free will no longer has a life. They've given it to someone else because they give all of their energy to that individual person, living form, or organization, or whatever it is that they choose to surrender their free will to. You have that option to do it, but you also have the option to maintain your uniqueness and the sole possession of your free will that was given to you as a gift, not to anyone else, because I firmly believe that No one here asked to come here. So the great creator did not make a mistake. So a mistake of the great creator would be, and the great creator would not be such a great creator as what is seen by the evidence of truth and not by the propaganda of lies of men through their overall schooling in all different forms, institutional schoolings of lies that are taught. And if we look, the great creator has given us the ability to create as well and to have sustainability in our overall creation from our uniqueness as individuals. I always say you were born alone. You're ultimately going to live this physical life alone, and your eternal spiritual journey, in my opinion, continues alone, because that is the greatness of what you have in that free will. But to surrender that, you are now squandering something that is very, very vital to your overall well-being, mentally, physically, spiritually, and eternally. And when we surrender our free will to someone else through a deceptive lie or through deceitful tactics, regardless of if we know or don't know, in actuality, you can't not know, because you already know spiritually who you truly are, but your physical man has decided to suppress the spiritual truths, and you've decided to live by the letter of the law and to ignore the spirit of the law. And I think this is very, very important for us. And for me, I've always taken the approach that the great creator makes no mistake, but I didn't ask to come here. So in not asking, for me not asking to come here, and I'm pretty sure everyone else that did not ask to exist, didn't ask to exist. Since you didn't ask to exist, there is a responsibility of the creator for your overall well-being. And I think that was given to us, and upholding that responsibility, there was a great gift of free will that was given to us. And that completes the responsibility. Because with that free will, you can energize your individual direction to creating a heaven or hell, to be free, sovereign, or to be subjugated and enslaved. And that choice is yours. Your talents are yours. Your views, your spiritual directions are yours. But the way in which the letter of the law has taught us is that you have to be a citizen. And being a citizen, there are requirements that you have to do, and the things that you have to meet. And if you don't meet those things, there is a punishment. There is a hell that they put you in. And not only that, they try to steal your future eternal energy by saying that there's a hell waiting for you by not obeying and being disobedient. These institutions are lies. And I want to further expose these lies because we have become liars. We have become liars by upholding this facade, this lying letter of the law that's penned by a man's hand. I'm going to say the way that man has created it, that they will say that there is something called the word of the great creator, but they say the word of God. And by the way that they say it, we don't even realize what they're really saying. Because from the standpoint of how the letter of the law speaks it, it's something that's written by hand of a man. But I know that the great creator creates nothing that's inanimate. Everything that the great creator creates is a living entity. Everything that man manipulates with is by a falsehood of life, not a truth. So I want to get into today's show and why this is so important, because Yes, there are many deceitful organizations, people, groups, ideologies, but that's not really the problem. The problem is when we allow ourselves to live by that deceit or organization, group, ideology, national and international existence of boundaries. That's where we become the greatest liars, because we deny our spiritual truth and we go back to the temporariness. And this is why it's so important. The temporariness of our physical existence is not the beginning or the fulfillment of our true internal life. It's just one phase. And we allow that one phase to be the only thing that we actually give our energy to. And this is how we become malnourished spiritually. So I want to just give an opportunity for us to ask questions about things so that we can think differently and to decide and to use our free will in a different way, because our free will is more powerful than what we know. Our free will can withstand and overcome all of the lies that have been perpetuated before and now and into the future, if we become honest. That's the key. If we become honest. Yes, I talk about different organizations and different governments and everything else, but I understand something, that they understand the truth of their free will more than we do. That's why we're in the position that we're in, and that's why they're in the position that they're in. So at some point and at some time, we got to stop lying to ourselves. Here's how the lie works, in my opinion, as we get into today's show. I want you to think about a football team. I want you to think about a football stadium. I want you to think about on a Sunday afternoon, there's two teams. There are fans that are in the stadium to observe. There are officials on the field in different forms and different capacities. There is assistance to the players and to the people that are there. There's a support group. There's security. There's all this whole thing. So what you really have, and then you have the owners that are there. Then you have the overall presiding NFL bylaws that are there that are actually controlling and dictate the rules of that stadium, what they own, the product that they put on the field, and the product that they put before for entertainment. I want you to think about this. This is very much how control of people throughout the world is done. This is a metaphor that can really explain what it is that we're up against. Now, when the players go on the field and they play the game based off of the rules that has been established by the NFL that pays them, they're playing a game by the rules that were set by the NFL. But here's what's very important about that. If those players happen to get into a fight on the field, they have a disagreement with someone else on the field, does that affect the ownership of the two owners or the owners of the respective teams? Does that spill into their overall relationship? No. Now, for the so-called fanatics, which is in what they use for the short term, the fan. I rather say the fanatic, because we need to start speaking truths. The fanatics that watch this, there's a reason why they call them fanatics, because we've lost our darn minds behind this and many other things. This is just a metaphor for the whole system. We have gone crazy and we've become fans of things that really don't exist. We become fans of the letter of the law. and we give no energy to the spirit of the law. So as a fan, they take people, they wear all different things, they yell, they scream, and they're ready to fight for their so-called team. They don't even realize that they claim something that they don't own. This is speaking death to your overall. This is speaking subjugation and enslavement and the loss of prosperity to your overall future. They claim a team as theirs when they did nothing to bring that team into existence. They are not a part of the ownership. I don't care even if you're a so-called Green Bay Packer fan. They say that the Green Bay Packers is how they're set up different than any other team in the so-called NFL. They're so-called owned by the stocks that they have. You don't own, even if you have stock in Green Bay. That's the lie. That's a piece of paper, ladies and gentlemen. But here's the point. You get fans that start to say, this is my team, that's your team, or we're going to win this and that, or we messed up, we did this, all this. And they get so enthralled in looking at what the product of control on the field is, that they become addicted to it and they need it. And from that, they're willing to fight other fans. First, it may be a verbal jousting. It may be in fun, right? Where some people don't take it too far. But based off people's personalities, there are other people that can take it much further than what it should go, to where it becomes violent. And then all of a sudden you're at a game and 2-3 people start fighting, and then the fight spreads everywhere, and it's a us versus them mentality. When the NFL is the only one that gains from this, because what happens in that fight between the fans, the owners don't get involved in that. They're not a part of that. They're not upholding your overall fan rights. What do they have? They have a commission that they come together and meet with each other to see what's in the best interest of the NFL. This is what we have, ladies and gentlemen, in so-called governments today. They are in one big fraternity, and they have a commission that they meet with each other to determine what's in the best interest to put the best product on the field so that the NFL will continue to be the most profitable sporting business in this country. And we don't even see that's how you control people. And they've divided this whole country regionally based off of that. And people get attached to their so-called team, which is a derivative, because you haven't done anything to own it. You don't have any real ownership. The only ownership that you have is based in emotion. And it's a lie that it's your team. Do you see how this plays into everyday life? Do you see the mirror effect? Because one of the things about sporting events, it's so necessary to keep people in their places so they don't ask the right questions beyond the team. Let me ask you something. If one player from one team is wrongly punished by another team, do those other teams ever invoke themselves against the team that wrongfully fired, let go, released, disciplined? Do the other teams get involved in that? No, they don't, because they know that there is an interest that they have in order to remain viable. So what makes you think, and what would ever make us think that there is any government on this planet that would ever take on the human rights issue? They don't. It's a facade when they say that they do, but they don't, because the human rights issues continues to be a global problem. And until the players on that field whose energy is being used for someone else's profit, they think that they're being profited by it. But let me ask you something. Have you ever seen any NFL players if they've spent any significant time in the NFL? Look at their physical bodies. Utterly destroyed. And when do the teams get rid of them? When they no longer have the energy they may have the energy, but they don't have the energy nor the talent any longer to be productive on the field. What do? They cut them. They cut them. And this is the exact same thing that's happening globally. There's a commission, there's team owners, there's players, there's officials, there's support groups, and then there's fans. And then there's the media that covers it and spreads it all over the world to indoctrinate everyone in the world. In Europe, football, here commonly known as soccer, is even bigger. And if you've seen the overall fanaticism in world international soccer or international football, you'll see what I'm saying. I remember during the World Cup, there was a Colombian player that made a mistake and inadvertently had an own goal. Own goal. What that means was he made a mistake and he kicked and put the ball in his own net, which caused for a point and for Colombia to lose in the World Cup in Los Angeles. 2 weeks later, or a short time later, that player goes home and is killed in his driveway. Why? It's a couple of reasons why that they say. Possibly because some gangsters lost a lot of money. There was bets, derivative bets. That's what a derivative is, and most of your pensions are funded by derivatives. They're derived from a bet with people that have no vested interest in the underlying company or vehicle that they're waging their bet on. Called your pension funds now. So they killed and shot this man in the driveway. This is how we act. And we love this sport event called life that has been turned into. And we complain about it. But the real problem is us. At some point and at some time, we're going to have to stop playing by those rules. Else we will continue to have what we've been having. Just like they cut the players, here's what they do to you. They build their stadiums off of your back. These owners of these teams, these professional teams, they get public funding for their private businesses. They have privatized the profits while taking the liabilities and socializing them. And they socialize the liabilities, meaning you pay for them to gain a profit. This is the same thing that's done globally. We pay for the system of governance to make a profit and to steal our energy. And until we really look at it for what it is from the standpoint of the truth, it won't matter if it's a flag that has red, white, and blue on it, or one that has purple, orange, and gold on it. Still a flag. Still a falsehood that has a commission and a fraternity to which they are recognized on. And that facade continues. What they do is just like the NFL. They get different draft picks because they suck for so long they get better talent so that they can start to win. It's the exact same thing internationally. One country will have human rights issues that will suck for so long that they'll change it, and then the country that's been doing so well for so long, they'll make them suck over time because their talent ages. The falsehood of talent ages, and in that aging, erodes the overall facade of citizen inclusion and prosperity. It's a falsehood. And this is a system that is very, very, it's a dangerous system, extremely dangerous to our overall physical and eternal energy, because how we use our free will here, this is just my opinion, will be a part of our frequency of energy and how we resonate spiritually once we leave from this physical period and make the great transformation into what's after our physical. But we will carry on because energy can never be extinguished. What you've indoctrinated, what you've learned, what you decided to do, how you executed your free will, this is who you are in so many places. This is who you can become spiritually. And this could transfer over, possibly. But it's time for us to break the lie among ourselves. So, we'd love to hear from you all. Give us a call, 866-510-9025. We're getting ready to go into a commercial break, and when we come out of the commercial break, we're going to jump into Pull It. But I wanted to lay that foundation so that you could see how the fraternal order of governance is no different than the NFL, the shield of the NFL, the National Football League, that has a governing body to determine the rules and the policy of the game. Play by their rules, and you will rule, and they will rule. You're listening to Thando Radio Show, brought to you by Black Talk Radio Network. We'll be right back after these quick commercial breaks.
You are tuned in to the Black Talk Radio Network. For podcasts and live program scheduling, visit us on the web at blacktalkradionetwork.com.
Okay, welcome back, everyone, to Thando Radio Show, brought to you by Black Talk Radio Network. We're getting ready to jump into Pull It. And if you'd like to get in on the conversation, we'd love to hear from you, 866-510-9025, 866-510-9025. So if you'd like to get in on the conversation, don't hesitate, give us a call. Now, I got Pull It from what was talked about during 9/11. And I want to jump into that. We want to talk a little bit more about this so that we can see how this is all, we are being deceived in this overall global game called citizenry and the government. So many of us, you'll always hear people say the government should do this, the government should do that. Well, what you're asking for is you're asking for tyranny, enslavement, and subjugation to continue. But as long as it doesn't affect me. Because we're giving blind faith to those that have not the ability, nor the moral conviction, nor the capability of not being inebriated by the wine of splendor called power. And because of that, their insatiable appetite turns into a love for power, and they ignore the power of love. And this is where we have a facade of inclusion. And one of the things is that the system, in order the system, what it has to do in order to maintain its overall energy and its momentum to continue going forward, is that they have to train you. Just like NFL players have to be trained and have to learn from a young age, possibly for those to do it the best and to do it the longest, they have to play longer and learn the fundamental rules of the game. And it's all about a game of profit in spite of the destruction. And this is why they have the overall illnesses, the overall, the diminishing and the deterioration of their physical bodies for paper and for frivolous prosperity. But it's not just them. I have nothing against those individuals. We are all born into this and what was energized before we were here. But that does not relinquish us of the responsibility of being the ones to say, no, I will not be a part of that. Why? Because I have the ability to dictate my overall free will, regardless of what your threats of pain and discomfort and punishments will be. I was given freedom, but it's on me to maintain that self-determining and sovereignty, because I have a choice to be free or be a slave. And the choice is mine, and the choice is yours. What will we choose, and who are you after that choice is made? Very, very important. So what I want to do, before we get into this, there's something that I want to bring to your attention. I'm not quite sure how familiar you all are of the Rothschild family. And I always think that if you see individuals in today's world, you know their names and have some. These are all the minions and celebrity figureheads that they put in front of you to uphold the overall system of subjugation and enslavement. So there was a very critical thing in lesson, because the system always tells you what it's going to do if we learn to listen. The Rothschild family, let me just say that there was Nathan Rothschild, and then there was Jacob Rothschild. And Nathan Rothschild funded the Wellington Army, and Jacob Rothschild funded Napoleon's army in the Battle of Waterloo. This is very, very important, because one of the things the system will always tell you is that they fund both sides of the war. Just like the NFL funds both sides of the war. They have the team, the one side that people say this is my team, and they have the other side where the other people say that's my team. Because the controlling factor is still being funded both sides. Whenever those teams lose, does the NFL lose? Has the NFL ever lost a game? No. Fans, and they get so attached to these teams, when they lose, there's so many different things that happen, even to the point of violating their loved ones because of it, because of their mood. They're in a bad mood now. They're mean now. They're violent now because their team lost. This is how you indoctrinate a slave. This is how you indoctrinate people to give up their free will from what they would not have otherwise done, but you indoctrinate them by schooling them that this is who you are now. The great Creator told you and gave you, didn't have to tell you, gave you that this is your existence. Someone else had to change that direction. And that direction gets changed at the youngest age because your power of your free will is so strong. If it is allowed to be free for any period of time outside of their overall schooling ages, you become a threat to the whole system because you'll refuse to play by their rules. So now Nathan funded one side, Jacob funded the other side. Something very important that Nathan Mayer Rothschild famously quoted as we go into here, and I want to read to you what it was. This is it. I care not what puppet is in place upon the throne of England to rule the empire on which the sun never sets. The man who controls Britain's money supply controls the British Empire, and I control the British money supply. The NFL cares not if those players, but they give the perception that they do, they care not really about those players. They care about the product of controlling the whole empire. The governments care not about the puppets that they put in front of you to move you emotionally, to act upon your emotions, to degree yourself a blue or a gold, to lay your stake in who you are, which is false and a facade of the truth. And one of the things that was so critical in that is Rothschild told you how they were able to control the British Empire. They said by the money supply. And when you tell most people that, the first thing that they think is cash. No, ladies and gentlemen, it's the essence of your existence. How do you exist is how they control you. By the true assets, the assets of food, the assets of water, the asset of security, the asset of protection, the asset of energy. You see, Rothschild controlled the money supply, didn't care who the puppets were. When you don't control the assets of your sustainability, then you generally have to be enslaved by those that do. You have to ask them for benefits for your existence. But when you control assets, what need do you have for a boss? What need do you have for an empire? This is very critical that we start to look at these things in a more holistic and distinctive way, an honest and a sincere way. Because if we don't, we will continue to read the propaganda that misleads us to think that we are on the team, to think that we own the team, to think that we are part of the team, to think that we are included and we really do matter in the overall scope and scheme of the NFL and the rules that the NFL has set forth or the rules that the government has set forth. No, that's the perception. That's the falsehood. Stay in place. We will use you at the appropriate time. I wanted to share that with you as we start today's show. Now, what I want to do is, give me a second, I want to play something for you, just to show you how the funding of both sides works. And today's show is called Pull It. Pull It came from the destruction in New York, the bringing down the World Trade Center buildings from the Twin Towers to number 7. And there was a reason why that was done. And it had everything to do with the transferring of the power to where one team is no longer has the energy or the talent to be the so-called champions of the NFL. Now that is going to be switched to another team. And you've seen teams, they trade players, they release players, they get new players, but the team remains the same. The owner remains the same. The organization of the NFL remains the same, and the overall consortium of the rules remain the same. They interchange the players. They use them as cattle as they need them. They consume their energy and their talent, and then they discard them. So as a team starts to lose its talent and its ability on the field of play by the rules of the game, the new champion that comes around. And they even give you the clue. They call it, there's a new dynasty that establishes. We don't even really look at the deception in it all. And ladies, it's not just men that do this. There are various ways in which this same thing is propagandized, and some of the things that are targeted and directed towards you. Even the NFL is directed towards you, yes, but there are other things that they know that men and women resonate a little different, and they know how to, from the psychological profile of enslaving for so many millions of years, they know how to attract you to the same facade in so many different ways. They know how to do it with white, black, red, and yellow. The truth hurts. But one thing about the pain of the truth is that it subsides when you treat it properly. It doesn't destroy you and make you mad. It actually gives you a healing process for you to be stronger. It doesn't tear down your overall spiritual body. It builds it up. It gets you closer back to who you truly are. Instead of the lies get you further and further away of what you truly could be. So, I want to jump into this pullet. I want to play something for you all. And this is to show you how both sides are being funded, just like the Rothschilds have done. They tell you everything if you learn to listen to the language. You've learned the language. Give me 1 second. Let me fix this as I continue. But it's very, very important that, in my opinion, that we do this because it's time for us to ask some of the right questions. And what I want to do is I want you to hear from Larry Silverstein, and he was the owner of the World Trade Center and the lease owner of that whole property. And what he did was, before that, he took out an insurance policy and increased the insurance policy on the property. And after the destruction of that property, he made a whole lot. Why? Because this is something that man and the system will always do. They will always try to get you to compromise your morality for someone else's agenda. And that's what they did, and they continue to do. I don't know his overall stake in this, in the whole thing, or how deep it is. But what I do know is this, is that if you see them, yes, they were a part of it, but they weren't the deciding part of it all. This is much bigger and much greater. And once we realize that, I think we'll be in a better, much, much better position. So I want you to hear from Larry and what he said. So give me 1 second to cue this thing up. Hopefully it won't jump out on me. 1 sec. And, yep, it did. Okay. 1 second. Y'all know my internet. One sec. Yeah, I'm going to have it. Here we go. All right, here we go. This is Larry talking about building number 7. And here's why this is so, and we'll talk about why this is so important. Here we go.
I remember getting a call from the fire department commander telling me that they were not sure they were going to be able to contain the fire. I said, we've had such terrible loss of life. And the smartest thing to do is pull it. And they made that decision to pull. And then we watched the building collapse.
Now, you heard Larry said that they wanted to pull it. Why is this so significant, ladies and gentlemen? This is significant because all the deceptions and the falsehood are all laced for controlled demolition to be pulled at the appropriate time that best serves the interests of the agenda. They're going to pull the whole U.S. because it's a facade and it's a part of the game for control. And they're going to establish, just like there's going to be a new dynasty that will come along, bright, shiny, and have all the hope and possibility, just like a campaign, a political campaign will be set forth that this nation is different than the one that they had to pull. But there'll be nothing different about it. Because we as the people haven't changed. We have been indoctrinated to allow individuals to maintain a paradigm and an energy of control over the masses as long as it doesn't adversely affect us individually or within what we care about. Because we've allowed ourselves to be divided and separated from the overall human interest of us all. And when we do, if you have a human interest of us all, you realize something. Some of us are wired differently. Some are crazy. Got to say it. There's a reason why they're crazy. Maybe it's something that's curable. Maybe it's not. But if it's not something that's curable, you do not give these individuals the keys to the Ferrari, with your child sitting in the Ferrari with no seatbelt. It is going to meet with great destruction because everyone resonates differently. And until we realize that the real important thing that we must do is we must dictate our overall future based off of our free will, not someone else's. And it can't be done by the system. You can't change the NFL from on the field. You can't change the NFL from within the support group. You can't change the NFL from within the stadium with the program and the ticket that you just bought. The only way that you can change the NFL is by not going to the game, not being there, because it doesn't have your energy. Yes, you can go to the game and try to disrupt it. They have a plan for that. And they have the means and the methods to handle that. And until we stop buying the tickets, stop buying the programs, stop going to the game, once the seats are empty, the whole thing starts to unravel. Because there's so much more that we could be doing with our energy that we are wasting at the game. And I use that as a metaphor not to knock anything, but is to give you an option to question. And that option of question should be, if we truly want something as known as freedom and sovereignty, the only way it can effectively and efficiently be built if those that want it orchestrate it themselves. And this is critical. And I'm going to tell you why it's so important and so critical. Because we have a bunch of people that have decided with their free will that they want to enslave and subjugate and steal the energy, ways and means. Your way of life provides for their means of life. They want to continue that paradigm. And they realize there's an effective way to do that. It's by creating a game with rules and policy that actually support your methodology and your overall singular objective, to have the seats full, have the building packing with energy. I don't know. I've been to there was a game I went to, and the energy at that game was so strong, it was undeniable. Remember, I went to a Seattle Seahawks game maybe a year or two after they built their new stadium that was built. It was new then, but it was built to be acoustically formidable. It was the loudest thing I've ever been in my life. And when I was there, I got noise sickness. It was so loud. Because everyone there was serving the singular purpose of giving energy to the game. And boy, was that powerful. I didn't mean to go off in this way on the show, but sometimes I just let it go where it's going to go. But see, that same energy can be put to practice once we care about really being free. Or do we want the rest on the field to call a penalty that best serves our team from within the confines of the rules of the game, so that we can win, so that we can have a dynasty? The problem is not the world, ladies and gentlemen. The problem is with the resonating spirits within the world. The problem is us. And until we can look at that as a part of the importance of our overall self-determining and freedom and sovereignty, we will continue to have civil rights that have falsehoods of exactions. There will be debt that will be created by those that don't have to pay it, laws that will be written by those that don't have to obey it, and wars that will be declared by those that don't have to fight it. We are squandering a great gift, and we're squandering our talents, trying to be a Super Bowl winner. Trying to get Tiffany. Trying to get a silver Tiffany. That's the trophy that's given to, they call it the Lombardi trophy. And there's so much idolatry that is formally practiced to uphold the overall system of enslavement that we don't even notice it anymore. Only thing we notice is that a light is red, a light is green, or a light is yellow now. We become artificial intelligence. There's a new race of people, the plastic people. And it's all characterized by falsehoods that are so destructive to the perfectness of our unique talents. And I would just hope that everyone will just decide to be free for themselves first, and then look at how a free person and a sovereign person, the importance of it, the responsibility of it all, to uphold it for all others, because it's something that everyone deserves. If they decide that it's worth having. So definitely, if you'd like to get in on the conversation, don't hesitate. Give us a call, 866-510-9025, 866-510-9025. And we'd love to hear from you all, but we're going to, until then, we want to jump into a couple of the deceptions that's going on. Yesterday we talked about the Nixon administration with Henry Kissinger, and I just want to go back to that real quick. You know, one of the things about Henry Kissinger with the Nixon in 71, I made a mistake. He wasn't the Secretary of State then. He was the intelligence advisor. Very important when he made that very important emergency meeting in China. And what was happening, ladies and gentlemen, Scotty asked a great question yesterday, and I really didn't want to get ahead of myself. One of the things that was happened, and that I believe that happened in those meetings, was that the U.S., Kissinger realized, and they realized, the system realized, that there was going to be a new beacon of freedom, and it's going to come out of China, because the U.S. was losing the energy and the talent to maintain the lie of the beacon of freedom that they were. So they have to have that established within the fraternity or within the organization or within the commission of the NFL. And that means not for long. All of these empires are not for long. All empires fall. And they realized that this empire was going to fall because it can only uphold a lie. Hate has an expiration date. And if they don't get in front of that expiration of hate, they start to lose momentum. They start to lose balance. They start to become irrelevant. They lose energy. So they get in front of it with all of their minions. This was the deal, I believe. I told you about the gold. Gold would be going to the U.S. But also, they wanted to have the demise of Russia, even though Russia is a part of the overall consortium of fraternity of nations. But see, the facade is to make you think that as a fan, that they're getting these players from one team to another team to now service your overall interests. So they were looking to trade places, and they wanted to bring about the economic demise of Russia, because that would serve the agenda, because the United States was losing energy in the overall, and talent in the overall ability to subjugate and to enslave, because people were starting to wake up and starting to question that this was all garbage. And it was a lie. Their creed was not followed in deed. All they did was wrote the word of man, which they consider themselves a God. A word of God was written in pen, while the great creator has no pen of ink, because it is an inanimate object. The great creator does not create anything that doesn't live. You ever want to see what the great creator has created? Look at what is in existence without man's interference. Look at the sun. Look at the stars. man had nothing to do with that. They're all living entities. So, realizing that the momentum was going to be lost, they got in front of it because this was of national, global interest to the stability of the world. You'll hear that being talked about all the time. And now that we use that metaphor of the NFL, I want you to start to see the different teams around the world and all their players and all the supporting groups that are all working together to uphold the shield. So now they wanted to make sure that Russia empire would go completely bankrupt because the U.S. was already bankrupt, so they had to facilitate a way to maintain economic prevalence, to maintain the overall leverage and the momentum that they had militarily, to be able to trick the different fans that their team would be able to withstand and win against another team, so that the people would only look at what's on the field and read what's only in the program and sit in their seat and be entertained, while knowing that the true cause of it all was to maintain the overall subjugation and enslavement of people. And what they do is that they realize that the U.S. has had a dynasty. And these dynasties don't last for long, just like not for long dynasties within the sports world. And what they're going to do is that they knew that because of that, they had to uphold different teams were getting better draft picks, and they were starting to become a better team. China was becoming a better team. They were able to move their overall people to believe in their talents beyond the obstacle of the worldly, the worldly devices or the worldly obstacles. And so they believe that, hey, we can get past this if we unite and work real hard under the cause of what's best for China. What did those people do? They became extremely loud. And their energy was directed and it was pointed. And because of that, it couldn't be stopped. Like I said, when I was at the Seattle game, I never heard anything like this before in my life, and it was so loud it made me sick. Had a headache for days after that. I was there with my son. We were inches apart. I'm yelling in his ear, he's yelling in my ear, and I couldn't hear a darn thing he was saying because the energy was so strong. And let me tell you, the force recognizes that. They realize that there's an energy and a resonance that these people are starting to have, and if we don't get in front of that, they're going to leave the stadium and not come back. They won't invest in the team. They won't take a us versus them approach. They'll disperse and have collective prudence in that same energy that they have. And let me tell you something. None of their weapons would work against that energy because it's so powerful. So, listen, everyone, get ready to go to a commercial break. If you'd like to get in on the conversation, give us a call, 866-510-9025, 866-510-9025. You're listening to Thando Radio Show, brought to you by Black Talk Radio Network. We'll be right back after this quick commercial break.
No, I'm not a writer.
Okay. Give up on my way home, yeah.
Black Talk Radio since 2008, providing new black media for the masses.
Okay, welcome back, everyone, to Thando Radio Show, brought to you by Black Talk Radio Network. It's your boy Dave from LA. If you'd like to get in on the conversation, don't hesitate. Give us a call, 866-510-9025, 866-510-9025. So what we're having today is that we're having the death of a dynasty. They're going to pull it. And in pulling it, they're going to give the perception that it was necessary because this organization and this team was losing its ability to control and manipulate and to make people think that they were something other than they weren't. They were paper tigers. And then another team came along with more talents and more ability and exposed their weaknesses. And the United States has been extremely weak from its overall direction because its creed was never followed in any form of deed. This was how they became the beacon of freedom under an auspice of a true lie. And this same lie is going to be perpetuated throughout the world. So right now, this is why one of the things, in my opinion, Kissinger was so critical to establishing the strategical charges to have a controlled demolition at the appropriate time for someone to say pull it, for the owner to say pull it, and down goes the building. And let me tell you why this is so significant. As Rothschild said, the money supply. The United States, in that deal that they made with China, was losing the money supply. They were losing influence so that they can take over an inferior position of debt. So at the appropriate time, everyone else in the world could say, yep, not only were they stealing from everyone, which they were, they became engorged in that, and they became greedy and debtful, and then they start to become tyrannical, and they started to become, this is where you get the Patriot Act and NDAA, where they start to become authoritative, and they started to consume their own citizens and the rest of the world. And the rest of the world said, nope, this is not what we're about. We're not going to do this. We're not here to uphold you. We will destroy you. And that will be the rah-rah cheerleading fight on the field. But the demolition of the controlled demolition has already been set, because the deception was that everything was that two planes brought all of this down. But before that happened, the gold was removed out of the World Trade Center, shipped to China. Also in that time, there was J.P. Morgan had a very large vault, the largest vault in the world, during the London whale financial incident, where J.P. Morgan became overextended in his overall derivatives, and they were betting with Chinese money, and they lost. China said, no problem. No problem. You've been scandalous. That's all right. We already had the one China policy already invoked, so this is what we're going to do. You're going to sell us your building in Lower Manhattan, and we're only going to pay a couple of $2 billion for it, and we're going to take everything that's there. And what did they take that was there? They took one of the largest silver deposits on the planet, in depositories on the planet. Why? Because they now control the money supply.
Dave, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Scotty.
Going back to your topic of pull it and where the steel or the rubble, what was left to steel, which would hold very valuable evidence on how they pulled it, so to speak, and that went to China. What do you think the likelihood that China may have documented that evidence and holding it as possible leverage that they could have exposed to all kind of propaganda channels to the American people? What are your thoughts on that possibility?
Man, I'm tell you, Scotty, you got me back on track because I kind of forgot, and I'm glad you, man. That's why you my peeps, brother. I remember on just one murder scene, I would be on a murder scene for a person that was a crime scene for hours. The overall crime scene in New York never even happened. And you had the world's largest criminal and crime scene the nation has ever seen, and the world has ever seen, and it was never treated as a crime scene. They started to dismantle the crime scene right away when a murder that I've been on for one person could last 18 hours. And this was the biggest crime scene in the world, and it was totally everything was starting to be compromised and moved away right away. And lo and behold, in all of this destruction of steel and everything else, you find some passports from the so-called people that was on a tin can that ran into a building, 110 stories. I wouldn't be surprised, Scotty, to answer your question, that the overall documentation of what was used, the thermite to cut the overall critical pillars, because it's already there, that a lot of that steel could have went to China. And then not only that, the evidence of what happened was handed over to them so that it can be used by just the way that you said it at the appropriate time to reestablish a new dynasty that the world should be following. Yep, without a doubt. And the thing about it is, until we start to see these deceptive tactics and decide what we truly want as individuals and collectively as people that resonate with you, and be willing to put the energy into that to acquire it, there are many people that put much energy into this system, knowingly and unknowingly, but the fact of the matter, there is a spiritual law that is in place. And that spiritual law says that energy has more force and mass to run over anything else. And no matter what the letter of the law thinks, if you walk out in front of this energy, it will run your butt over because you violated the spirit of the law. Even though they say you have this right and that right, by which means are they talking about these rights? They're talking about the rights that are written that man acknowledges, which is no spiritual law at all. So Scotty is absolutely, I see that definitely a part of this whole ploy. Because when you start to look at and really look at how this whole thing was orchestrated, it was all orchestrated, and they do it 20, 30, 40, 50, 100, 200 years in advance. Because it's a proven system that works. They understand the not for long system, because everybody here is only worried about right now. Many of us need to start to energize our future right now by resonating different. There comes a point, and I would say most of you that listen to Thando Radio Show and listen to Black Talk Radio Network, you're already awoken by things and the deception of things. Now it's time for you to create the energy that can't be stopped. And that requires you to start, even if it's just you by yourself. And let me tell you the power of you being by yourself. It's an eternal power that we ignore. The great creator made no mistake in making you individually, in making you uniquely different than anyone else. There's a power in being by yourself. And in today's world, they try to say if you're by yourself, there's something wrong with you. There's something wrong with you being alone. Yes, because they don't want you to be the creator that starts to energize your uniqueness. You were born alone. You're going to make the great transformation alone. So, actually, everybody can leave you the heck alone, and you would be fine. But see,
Dave,
the letter of the law doesn't tell you that. Yeah, go ahead, Scotty.
I was getting the images of the agents in the Matrix pointing out the person, hey, he's acting different from everybody else, so get him. When you, and it's not meaning also, although it could mean, physically, but also mentally, meaning you're an individual, you stand out from the crowd. You're different than all the other little children. For some reason, you're not accepting this programming, and you're asking questions. Why are you trying to be an individual? Just go along with everybody else and say slavery was abolished in 1865. Don't don't question it. See, you being the individual, I got to send you to the principal office. You disrupting the programming.
I got to send you to prison. There are no two twins that are identical. That's the lie that they tell you. The only thing is that they look alike. And until we stop believing the lying eyes from the spectacle of the deceit that man has given us, we will continue to ignore the spirit of the law and only uphold the falsehoods of the letter of the law. And that means, ladies and gentlemen, that you will continue to see a disparity of treatment among people of this world. And they will transfer that around 100 years from now. You may see a total reversal of teens and their abilities. 100 years, 200 years from now, you may be surprised if it continues by the letter of the law. All of a sudden, there's brown people that's running everything. There's red people that's running everything. There's black people that's running everything. And there are other people that are always will be on the bottom, because the system has taught that nobody wants to be a slave, but everybody darn sure wants to have them. So we are in a great place. You are in a great place. Even with our overall identical twins, the great creator still makes you uniquely different. And we need to start to understand the power of and from which we came. Before the science gets and the agenda gets to a point where they use the energy enough to create something totally remanufacturable, where they can manufacture and clone exactly what's wanted and what's needed for the letter of the law. And this is where science is going, because the energy is there. And I would tell you, don't fool yourself and think that they won't make it. They've done very well for so long. The only reason why is because they're more committed to it than the individuals of the world. We've become the wanderers. going from game to game, tailgate to tailgate, stadium to stadium, team to team, season to season. This is why this attack is seasonal, and it continues. You know, I really didn't get into the part of Pull It that I really wanted to bring to you all's attention, but we will do that. What you're seeing in the South Sea of China, what you're seeing in Eurasia, what you're seeing in Syria, what you're seeing in different parts and places of the world, the turmoil that's there is all created, is all a part of the playing field to destroy and to maintain the objection of subjugation and enslavement. The key is, will you sit in the stadium? Will you buy the ticket? Will you be a part of the program? And will you support the not for long system? And be here and be a part of it, and to energize when they say pull it. Because the charges have been set, the controlled demolition is ready, the falsehood of attack is going to come, and they're going to let you see it by something else, and it's going to give them plausible deniability from what really is the problem. The problem is the whole system is rigged. But the beauty of the rigged system is you don't have to be a part of it. You don't have to uphold it. And if that's important to you, who knows? You may resonate with a group of people that may be so important to, that your resonant energy will rub off on another, and then you will become very loud, and louder than the 12th man at the Seattle Seahawks always brag about. And let me tell you, that place is loud because it was acoustically built for that energy to be harnessed.
Dave, before you close out, I do have another question.
Yeah, go ahead, Scotty.
I do see a lot of energy being directed to a quote-unquote, they're not calling this, but that's what it is. They're trying to counter the system of racism and oppression of non-white people in this country by telling people that they need to become masters of money and investment, and they can invest their way out of slavery or buy their way out of slavery. But see, the flaw in that thinking is, first of all, you're investing in the very system that is enslaving us. Okay. Yeah. And then the other thing is that how logical is it to think the enemy gonna give you the tools or allow you to use the tools to get yourself to minimize the impact of racism, white supremacy on your life? But I'm also thinking then most of those people who preach that let's all become millionaires, even though that's not possible, they're thinking individually, and those people they're teaching these methods to are thinking individuals to get myself out, long as it's not affecting me. Like if you know the character in the book, the real life person, Solomon Northrop, that 12 Years a Slave was built. See, he was integrated into the system. He was a black business owner. He was investing. He was not affected by slavery because he had the free black man status. He was free, quote unquote, free. And so, but then he got kidnapped by white people he was trying to do business with, invested in the system into slavery. And so he didn't care about slavery individually. He just cared about, in general terms, he wasn't an abolitionist until it happened to him. And so I'm just saying, then even when we see black celebrities, actors, whatever, do quote unquote accumulate money, what happens? The system go after them on tax evasion charges. That happened to, what's that guy name on Empowerment Network? I've heard you mention his name. He had a show on there. I think he based in Atlanta. They try to say he was involved in some kind of scheme to defraud through real estate. and what have you. Wesley Snipes, I had read that Wesley Snipes was going to invest in a military training compound, basically doing the same thing that Z Services was doing, or Eric Knight. What did they call it back then? Blackwater Securities, which have a base here in North Carolina. Well, Wesley Snipes was going to set up something similar in South Carolina, but it was connected to like this some kind of semi-religious political black group. African.
He was going to do a Blackwater. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
exactly.
And so what happened? They went after him on tax evasion charges. So can you please speak to, and I hear you every day come on here and talk about the fragility of this system and its pending collapse. But then there's so much energy being directed, and I'm speaking of people who look like us, who resonate with us, but they're being directed to invest in a collapsing system. But even when you look at history and Black Wall Street, which they try to always hold up and model after, look at Black Wall. Well, yeah, look at what happened to it. All of that prosperity, they couldn't defend it. If you can't defend it, what's the point? If they can just destroy it at any time. So accumulating resources or money or standard of living did not protect them against terrorism.
No.
It doesn't. So speak to that, please, as a tactic, though. As a tactic, investing your way out of white supremacy, I'll just call it. What do you think about that tactic?
You can't. I'm going to start with this. Everyone, get rid of this. No one wants to be a slave, but everybody wants to have one. And if you are going to go to the game and sit in the stands and be a part of the overall fan participation, you're not going to change the NFL. You are a part of the NFL. You just want to make your way. You want to be a vendor inside of the NFL. You want to be able to have a booth where you can sell your stuff and this and that. That's upholding the NFL. Now, are there ways in which we want to, as a standard of living that we need to have and everything else? Yes. There's a process to becoming, independent and sovereign. And in that process, there's an asymmetrical way that you should be doing it. Now, one of the things that you cannot, let me tell you, this is some people have the best intentions. But what can also happen is that their talent could be noticed, and then there could be a compromise of that talent to uphold the system itself. This is why, in my opinion, there's one of the very good tactics that is used to get people to compromise their morality for a different agenda. If you are going to make a deal with the devil, you are always going to lose your soul. If you are because it's only going to be natural, because you will compromise and you will say, well, you know what? Yeah, I'm not doing that, but somebody's going to make this. I might as well make it. Or you won't even care about how it's being made. Only thing that will matter is the inflow in the which you can get. It's not an individual thing. This system is set up for people to fully participate in it at all and uphold it at all junctures, because there's pressure from everywhere for you to be trained. It's just like someone when they train in animals. What do they do to train a horse to not to be wild? They get another horse to do it. It's just a natural process, because we would think that this is acceptable behavior. But what you're doing is you're domesticating yourself. And investing in this system that uphold, unless you know exactly everything that's going on and you care to know, because there's some investments that I walk away from. There's some investments that I say, no, that's not going to benefit. There's something much greater to this and all. No, I'm not interested in that. But that has to be something of you that is important to you, because the only thing that we're going to do is we're going to continue to do this. And let me tell you something about this system. This is what this system will do. It will create such an evil energy among everyone, and they will wait to see who has the evilest spirit to maintain their system. And then all of a sudden, that individual will be given the world. And then they will think that they are inclusive in doing something to their benefit, and when actuality, they've transformed themselves into the very essence of the demonic rituals, because that's what they really are, demonic rituals, and the malevolent agenda of this whole world. So we always got to be careful, and we always have to resonate among ourselves and with you first, because you weren't made to be a part of a group over you first establishing your own roots. Who are you? Who are you? And what are you willing, and who are you going to be? And what prosperity and legacy are you going to leave, not only here, but what are you going to set forth in your introduction into the great eternity that comes after this great transformation, this physical demise or physical removement or death? So important. There is no way for you to actually uphold the system and make sure that it's there. Now, can you sabotage? Oh, without a doubt. Can you use and to find out how things are doing so that you can work in a different way against it? Oh, without a doubt. That's the joy and the fun of you being a warrior that is actually engaging in the overall demise of the system. Just before we get out of here, I want to say this. There was something that Miyamoto said. Miyamoto said something very powerful. Said, know the law, break it, and be captured so that you can escape. Much love, much respect, everyone. We out of here for today. It's never goodbye. As always, I'll see you later. And before you ask for a fortune, make sure to give one away. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.